like to call to order the special city council meeting, Riviera Beach, August 26, 2019, 8:45 p.m. Madam, roll call.
Mayor Ronnie Felder, Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Julia Botel,
Here.
Councilperson Trodrick McCoy,
Here.
Councilperson Shirley Lanier, Councilperson Douglas Lawson,
Here.
City Manager Jonathan Evans,
Present.
City Clerk Claudine Anthony is present, City Attorney Don Nguyen. Here. You may proceed.
Okay, I just wanted to say again for the record that Mayor Felder is at the housing conference with the Riviera Beach CDC. We did the moment of silence and pledge at our budget meeting just a little bit ago, so we'll move down the agenda. We should not have any additions, deletions, or substitutions. Are there any disclosures by council? Okay, we have a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson,
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy,
Yes.
Councilperson Botel,
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Any person, we don't have a consent agenda, so I'll skip that. No unfinished business, petitions, communications for filing,
None.
awards and presentations, public hearings, public comments we will get to, but all matters listed, if you would like to speak on an item, one of the agenda items, please fill out the comment card. Once she has closed that item and read the resolution, we will no longer accept cards on that item. All right, regular item number 1.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the renewal of dental insurance coverage with Solstice Benefits, Inc. Address is 7901 Southwest 6th Court, Suite 400, Plantation, Florida, 33324, to provide dental and voluntary vision insurance for city employees for the policy year of 2019 to 2021, and authorizing the Director of Finance and Administrative Services to make payments from various city departmental accounts in the estimated annual total amount of $58,914 for dental insurance for the period of October 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2022.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Chair, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair, members of the board, this item before you is seeking authorization to enter into a renewal with Solstice Benefits to provide dental and vision services for the city employees for fiscal year 2019 to 2022. Solstice is renewing at a 0% increase, so it is effectively a rate pass guaranteeing the same rate for a period of 3 years. There is no modifications to the plan. The plan design remains the same, and it is also the current provider that is providing services to the City of Riviera Beach employees. At this time, staff recommends approval of the item that's in front of you this evening.
All right, do we have any questions or comments from the board? All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson,
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy,
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel,
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item number 2.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the health care coverage with Aetna Healthcare of Florida and authorizing the Director of Finance to make payments from various departmental accounts up to the amount equal to $950.25 a month per employee for fiscal year 2019-2020 and provide an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Let the record reflect Ms. Lanier is on the dais.
Madam Chair, we do have public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair, members of the board, this item before you is a resolution to award the city's health insurance coverages to Aetna Care of Florida for fiscal year 2019 and 2020. We've had the opportunities to meet with board members individually to discuss plan design elements and what the proposal is for the city to move forward. This evening, we have representatives from the Gearing Group that will speak in more specificity of new plan design and ultimately what the plan consists of. We have started the process of putting together information that we would utilize for the purposes of informing the residents as well as the employees about the changes as a result of the plan. One of the things that is new to the city's insurance program is we are introducing a high deductible health plan with a health reimbursement account for the purposes of trying to curtail some of the healthcare costs that we've experienced as an organization. We have representatives here from the Garing Group that will get into the plan at this particular time, and staff will answer any questions. The overall rate increase that the city will see as a result of this plan is 6.7%. A part of that rate increase is attributable to the high claims to premium ratio that we run as an organization of over 103%. Historically, we've run pretty high as it relates to our health insurance claim to premium ratio, but we anticipate inserting some consumerism into the plan design and the process that we should see some of our costs go down, hopefully, in the next couple of years. I have to say, I give a lot of credit to the Garing Group and to the leadership of this board to effectively have staff work with our consultants to sharpen their pencil and bring back what we think is a comprehensive proposal that makes sure that there is no lapse in coverage and that the same physicians that are treating and caring for our employees remains the same. There are some nuances to the plan design and there are changes, and we will be sure if the board proceeds forward with adopting the plan design as proposed, that we will inform the employees accordingly and have multiple informational sessions working with our consultants. So without further ado, Madam Chair, if I can have the representatives from the Garing Group present their items to the board.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. Christian Bergstrom with the Garing Group. This evening, just to update the agenda, we'll go over the utilization trends of the plan, the medical plan renewal as it was, and the proposals and considerations for the upcoming fiscal year. We're also going to talk about the plan redesign, the benchmark, and then as well as your ancillary renewals, which actually we don't need to discuss. You just approved the dental renewal. So your medical claims experience, as the manager has indicated, has continued to increase over the years. We discussed that the loss ratio beginning in 2016 was 88%, followed by 97% and 103% for this current year. You'll see that the claims increase was 11% last year, and it's gone up 8% this year. Even though the claims have increased, the premium only increased by 3% last year and 5% this current year. So the premiums are underperforming the claims. So I'm sorry, the claims are outperforming the premium revenue that's being received. And this is a result of the utilization trends, as we discussed. A majority of these have occurred in an inpatient hospital setting and in emergency room settings. The medical utilization trends, the city has continued to bear more and more of the costs of the claims by maintaining a co-payment style plan. So as co-pays remain fixed and the costs go up, the city incurs more and more costs. So from last year, the city's plan incurred 90% of all the claims costs, and this past year, it's incurred 92% of the cost. So those utilization trends continue to go up. Pharmacy is another big driver of the claims experience. In this current year, there has been a 32% increase in the pharmacy payments that have been paid per member on the plan. There's been a 36% increase in the amount of the average claim paid, as well as you'll see on the right-hand side that there's been a 22% increase in the cost of generic medications, a 39% increase in the cost of brand medications, and 34% of multi-sourced brand medications. So with the renewal, Aetna initially released a renewal of 32%. Subsequently, they revised that after negotiations with 27%. Based upon our underwriting forecast that we do internally, we would anticipate roughly around a 25% increase with no plan design changes. As of the last meeting, last week that we had with the board, Aetna had revised their offer to 18%. However, right after that meeting, they had discussions with their leadership, and they were able to revise the renewal to a 17% increase with no plan changes. That is a cost of $954,000 to renew as is. Aetna also provided an alternative renewal that lowered the increase from 17% to 14.4%, which is roughly an $808,000 increase with some minimal design changes. It would increase the out-of-pocket maximum from $1,500 for a single to $2,500, and $3,000 for a family to $5,000. Increasing the specialist copayment from $35 to $40 a visit, increasing the emergency room copay from $250 to $300 per visit, and to remove bariatric coverage. There have only been 2 claimants that have utilized this benefit, so you're paying for a risk charge that your employees and dependents are not utilizing. We reviewed this slide last Monday with the initial offers and then the best and final offers from the carriers. So what the consideration is from staff is to maintain a partnership with Aetna and introduce a high deductible health plan with a reimbursement account as the base plan offering. Your existing HMO and point of service plans will remain in place with no plan changes, and they will become buy-ups. So employees, if they choose to stay in those plans, they can pay for that themselves out of their paycheck. The fiscal impact is a 6.7% increase, or around $375,000 in overall premiums, and this roughly equates to about $60 per month increase per employee. This is a representation of the employee cost share. Employees currently do not pay anything. The city pays 100% of their health care coverage. And so moving forward, that could continue to be the same as well. Those that have employee plus one coverage, they're currently paying $356 a month, and that would be increasing to $380 per month, or roughly around $23.86 would be their increase per month. Families would have an increase of $34.58 per month, from $517 to $551. Also, on this slide, it indicates that the city is going to transition to a 24 deduction pay cycle versus a 26 deduction pay cycle. So employees will have 2 pay cycles where there will be no payroll deduction. Employees wanting to stay with their existing copayment plan can do so. For an employee only, that would be $45.90 per pay. Employee plus one, it would be $254 per pay, and employee plus family would be $348 per pay. So the plan redesign and introducing the HRA plan. This plan uses the exact same provider network that is used today, so there would be no transition of care issues. Employees could stay with their exact same doctors, their pharmacies, and the pharmacy formulary that they use. Aetna will fund $500 for single coverage and $1,000 for family coverage in the health reimbursement accounts. This means that employees will have first dollar coverage up to the HRA amount. So the HRA will be used to offset that deductible of the high deductible health plan. Employees do not have to use all of their money, or if they choose not to, or they just don't have the healthcare expenditures, the $500 or any balance thereof will roll to the next year, and same with the $1,000, so that it could be used again in future years. Employees can also elect to fund flexible spending accounts to cover any additional healthcare expenditures that they may have during the year. So this is the plan design. We had discussed this slide last week. So the deductible for a single for in-network use is $1,500. So roughly it's $1,000 because they're being given $500 in that health reimbursement account to offset that. A family, the actual deductible is $3,000, but they're giving $1,000, so that's a $2,000 roughly deductible. So once the deductible is satisfied, you pay 20% of the contracted amount until the out-of-pocket maximum is satisfied. So this would apply to all services such as primary care visits, specialist, lab, urgent care, emergency room, inpatient and outpatient hospital. One item that does not apply to the coinsurance or the deductible is preventive care. So there is a long list of items that are covered at 100% for preventive care. So that would be an example of an annual physical for an adult, an annual OBGYN exam for a female, different types of tests that one would have based upon CDC guidelines. Prescription drugs will not be a coinsurance, they will be a copayment. So they are actually the copays that you're used to seeing today. It's just that the deductible will be satisfied first. Once the deductible is satisfied, then you will pay the copays. So the out-of-pocket maximum for a single technically is $3,000, but you're being given that $500, so it's $2,500. And for the out-of-pocket maximum for a family, it's $6,000 overall, $5,000 after the reimbursement account is given. So again, this is just a different way of looking at it of the HRA amounts, your deductible amounts, then the coinsurance, and then the out-of-pocket maximum that any given person or family would have during the plan year. So this would follow a plan year from October 1st through September the 30th. How the medical claims are paid, so you will, bless you, you will visit a in-network doctor, hospital, or facility. You will receive the contracted rate for the HRA plan that you're in. Aetna receives the claim from the provider and then will deduct any of those charges out of your HRA account. And then depending on what your balance is in the account, you could be responsible for any of the differences or the coinsurance amount. The Aetna website is fully transparent, so employees will be able to see how much their provider office visits cost, their inpatient, outpatient costs will be, as well as the prescription costs. It's actually going to be amazing in that we're going to do with the employees through the open enrollment process and education and training is really the variance in the cost of the pharmacies. That's really where you'll see some big differences and some interesting ways to save money there. And then always the balances and your out-of-pocket maximums will be available on the websites or through calling customer service. This is just a benchmark of the other agencies that have high deductible health plans that are neighbors of yours or nearby, about how much they contribute towards the premiums, how much they contribute into the account, the funding arrangements, and then the out-of-pocket maximums. We talked about last Monday that we are going to be putting in a benefit system of record to manage all of the benefits in one place and to have audit availability. The dental and vision, as you just approved, are renewing at no increase. The life and disability insurance is with Unum. It's in a rate guarantee, so there's no action needed there for that was already been approved. And so in conclusion, we're introducing a plan that allows for transparency and cost and improved consumerism and healthcare expenditures where the city is not absorbing all of that cost. There will be no payroll deductions taken in September, transitioning again to 24 deductions per year versus 26. Your provider networks will remain the same with Aetna, so again, no changes with the providers. There will be no transition of care issues for anybody that has ongoing large claims or has necessary or in treatment. Billing processes are going to become more accurate and transparent with the introduction of BenTech. And this consideration represents a $578,000 savings from the revised renewal at 17%. And with that, we can open it up to any questions that you may have.
All right, we'll go to public comment first, and then we'll come back for the board.
Mary Bram, Madam Chair and Board, the Wi-Fi is not working, so I'm going to have to do the timer on my phone.
Why is your Wi-Fi never working? All right, everybody,
Hi,
be
how's
mindful.
everybody doing? Chair,
Good
City
evening.
Manager, Board. I was just looking at.
Hold on, are you ready?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
good?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right, good
Hi.
evening, Ms. Brown.
How's everybody doing?
Great.
I was just looking at the budget here. And here it is here where it says the health, dental, and life insurance is 70%. And your retirement out of all of your general fund expenditures by category. In that retirement, it is also 7% as well. My question is, once when the employees either leave the city or they are deceased, and we do pay 100% from what I heard the representative state here, into this health insurance package for our employees. Employees, you all are the city is very generous as far as maintaining you all in health insurance. We know that the health cost is on the rise, as well as our drug costs too, because even though Ms. Bram does not have this insurance, but Ms. Bram does have insurance. But my question is, once when the employees leave this employment, is the city still obligated in paying their insurances? Now, I know that lessons were learned with that 1 some odd million. So my question still is on the table here, and I would like it answered. Do we still pay for some of the utilization of the employees that have either left the city or have been terminated? So how is that dialogued into this insurance portion here that the city pays for its employees? And you do have a 6.7% increase. That's the employees, do not be dismayed about it. Increases are going all across the board in everything. So if you go with Aetna, they did give you a 17%. See, you have to know how to bargain with them. First, it was 18%. Am I correct? Then you all went back to the table, and you got them down to 17%. So, okay, work them out a little bit more there, unless you're satisfied with the term of this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes.
All right. Board, questions, comments?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Couple things. So, Christian, you said there'd be no deductions in September. We're starting this new plan January 1, correct?
No, sir, you started on the plan October 1st.
Okay, so,
Currently, the deductions are taken a month in advance. And so transitioning to the new payroll system, you'll be able to take the premiums out in arrears. And so September premiums will not need to be collected because we'll start paying October premiums in October versus a month ahead. And so we're going to now, to make sure that we have complete transparency with what the insurance company is billing the city, is we're going to collect the money out of the 2 paychecks, and then with that, then we're going to pay the insurance company versus paying the insurance company before we collect the money.
follow up.
Go ahead.
So, how does that work with individuals or employees that have elected the, I guess, the optional flex spending account that has already been predetermined to take out for every pay period, and now there's a whole, I guess, a whole nother process that's just been implemented before the end of the calendar year? Will those deductions remain the same?
Yes, I believe so. These are going to be the deductions for the health insurance.
Correct. But if you opted on a family plan to get family coverage, and that family coverage, as they knew it, was to last until the end of the calendar year, which coincides with a flex spending account, now you continue to have those deductions for, I guess, September through December, when essentially you have a whole new insurance beginning October 1.
Yes, that is correct. But the employees that have paid for family coverage, they have already paid for their coverage in September in their August paychecks.
But not under the FSA deductions. Those come out bi-weekly, if I'm correct.
That is
And it's
correct.
based on the pay periods for the year.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So here's another question. I think it's on slide 16, but I was just looking at, for instance, slide 16, the co-insurance. So essentially, if you have an individual who has the family plan and they would have to meet $2,000 towards the deductible in order for prescriptions to kick in. Am I right?
That is correct.
So my question is, does Gearing, and I know you don't offer products, but has there ever been a case where you guys offered a supplemental product, like to go towards the prescription benefit portion, similar to how Medicare supplements do, but you're essentially about to have an employee not have prescription coverage until they meet the first $2,000 of out-of-pocket expenses? Is there something on the supplemental side that you can offer, or have you ever offered something on the supplemental side, which is separate and away from what the city pays, to employees to help, I guess, stand in the gap for that first, I guess, the donut hole, if you will, similar to Medicare, stand in the gap for the first $2,000?
Right. There are programs that are available and that we are going to educate the employees on that are available through them, such as the Publix free generic and antibiotic programs, the Walmart and Target $4 programs. We also talk about Good RX, and then there are also co-payment assist programs that are offered through the manufacturers as well.
Well, I think it's important, and this is not really a selling point for you, but the education, and I know this is probably going to include our HR and risk team, but essentially they have no coverage for prescriptions until you reach $2,000 of out-of-pocket. Now, granted, if you're healthy, it may be tough, and I've seen some people that had had prescriptions that I didn't even realize prescription costs as much as they did. And I don't want it to come as a shock to someone who has a prescription that's $400 and they realize they don't have coverage because they haven't met their out-of-pocket deductible yet. And I think that we should very much be aware of it and make sure that they're aware, and then possibly add some, if there's some safeguards in place to help with those costs.
So just to clarify, that the prescriptions, they will have coverage for prescriptions in the meantime. So the cost of the prescription can apply to the deductible. So if their prescription costs $100 on October the 1st, then $100 will be applied to the deductible. So those costs do apply towards the deductible. Everything goes towards the deductible and the out-of-pocket maximum.
They're going to have to pay $100 for that
Ma-
medicine up
Well,
front.
Right,
Well,
well, that's
That's
the concern.
problem.
So, yeah, and I understand that. I don't know how that works. I guess you would put your pharmacy on notice that you have a new high deductible plan, just for the purposes of you having enough to go towards that deductible?
Right, so the claim system, when somebody goes to fill their prescription, yes, the first month they will be paying the discounted network rate for the prescription. And yes, that can be whatever the cost of that prescription is. For a family coverage, there is the $3,000 deductible. The first $1,000 for medical or pharmacy expenses is covered by Aetna. Then the next $2,000 is the responsibility of the collective family unit.
Right, so Christian, my question is, I know you guys, and I think you shared that with me today, that you guys only primarily deal with public sector. But have you guys ever offered a product as a supplemental, like the AFLAC, right?
Yes,
Or-
AFLAC is offered here at the city.
Right, but similar to an AFLAC, do you offer a prescription coverage or prescription discount assistance program? That way you don't have an employee having to meet, like for instance, if you're sick, right? Well, if you're not sick and you have a regular monthly maintenance medication,
Yes.
you essentially are paying out of pocket until you reach $2,000 in covered expenses. Is there something that an employee can pay monthly, right?
Yes.
That will help cover on the back end, like some sort of supplemental, product?
Yes, there is a
That would avoid the high cost of coming out of pocket $300-400.
Yes. Good RX is the prescription discount
that's-
program.
Christian, I mean, like, so there is a, Emeritus that has a dental and prescription program. Like, is there another insurance carrier that you guys could offer that you're appointed with that can offer, like an additional insurance?
Yes, we can look at that option as well. Yes,
I would
we
like
can.
that because I'm going to
Okay.
tell you, there's never going to be a perfect situation. The first thing an employee is going to say, well, this coverage doesn't do me any good because I can't even pay for my prescriptions.
Mhm.
And you might just be right at that area of, let's see, 12 months, you may have a prescription that costs you, let's say, $300 to $400 a month. So you'll essentially have to pay that amount because you'll never ever get past the deductible. Granted, if you are not sick or anything or don't have any other medical treatment.
But, Madam Chair, if I may, the Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 prescription medications, it's hard to say what someone's prescription medication, because if it's a maintenance medication, it may be a Tier 1 prescription medication, and it may only cost $10. But if you have an employee that looks at a situation that they have a prescription medication that costs $500 a month, then they would buy up to the other plan that speaks specifically on that spells out Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. So that's when we say about the consumerism, is that the employee would say, listen, I'm relatively healthy, I'm not on any specific prescription medications, so let me pay the extra money to buy up to have the reassurance as, here's a Tier 1, what's going to cost me, here's what my prescription medication will cost me, et cetera. So this plan is not going to be the panacea for everybody, but it would allow, if somebody decides to say that I want to pay the difference for the plan that's in place, then it goes to, I believe, what slide do we have here?
14.
Slide 14, that says that I may decide to choose the other plan that provides me more assurity and more comfort that my prescription medication is going to be covered at a certain rate versus what the unknowns would be. So that's where it provides for that opportunity for the employees to make an informed and educated decision on that.
Thank you. I understand that. Well, I'm really trying to find a way that we can make it almost where you won't have a situation where somebody would do that. Because once you opt into your insurance, you're there all year.
Mhm.
But I just was asking for a supplement, but I guess the answer is no. It's not anything that they offer. So.
It would be something, if we were to look at it, then then the city would bear the cost to pay for the supplement.
No.
Oh,
No.
so you would pass that would be a cost you would pass on to the employee. I guess we can look at that and see if there's a private provider that offers that as a additional add-on. And we can see how it would work with the plan.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
Mr. Evans, that's part of the question that I had with the educational piece, the understanding and transferring that information to our employees. What do we have in place and actually set to actually educate them on the changes that they're going to have with this change of insurance?
So how I envision us doing the education pieces, if the board is to proceed forward with taking the plan modifications that are being proposed, is that we would have opportunities to convene with each department, and then we would get down into scheduling more specific discussions with employees and their spouse or what have you to get into more intimate information concerning what works best for them, because the high deductible plan does not necessarily work for somebody that is spending $500 or $600 a month on regular maintenance medication. Maybe the buy-up works better. So we would have a general information session, and then I would ask that staff work with the departments to schedule, whether it's 30 or an hour-long discussion with that employee and their partner, their spouse, or what have you, to be able to make an informed decision as to what is in their best interest. I'm not advocating for the group conversation, because invariably people don't ask all the questions that are necessary. So we introduce the plan, talk about the elements, but then encourage employees, if we need to stay there with them for an hour for each employee, whether we have meetings at 7 in the morning, at lunchtime, and 7 in the evening, we'll certainly make ourselves available to answer all questions that the employees may have, and make sure that they leave with literature that if you have your general group session, that you can take a couple days and come back and have a conversation with us to mull over what decision you have to make, as opposed to making a decision on the spot. Because as Councilman McCoy said, once they make that decision, they're locked in for a year, unless they have a qualifying life event that allows for them to make another selection or change the benefits. So the education component is going to be critical to the employees.
Follow up, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
And then also, I wanted to hear from our representatives from Aetna as well, to see how that we can address the loss ratio, that utilization rate, how we can actually lower it if we've seen circumstances where it's actually been lowered, and then what benefits Aetna is actually going to be providing for our employees and staff to actually get us to get that down to a certain percentage that's not going to keep increasing our insurance annually.
Before they come, Madam Chair, can I ask a question of staff or Mr. Christian?
Okay, go ahead.
So just curious, when and how long will open enrollment be? Is that, I mean, obviously, I guess typically it's 2 weeks,
2 weeks.
and obviously it would be in the month of September, either being the second or third week?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So just to follow up on that, that means staff would have to be scheduled with all 500-plus employees and get those meetings done within that 2-week period?
Absolutely, and we would make sure that we would allow and provide the employees and much time and flexibility to do that during work hours or even after hours. We'd make that accommodation for the employees.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is a privilege to be here. Thank you so much. My name is Gabby Dimitrakis. I'm here with Aetna, and I am an account executive, and I also have with me
Wanda Crawford, your Senior Account Manager.
Good evening.
one of the things that we wanted to reassure you is that we understand that education piece that is going to be so vital if we were to move, and if you were to adopt having that high deductible health plan, along with your current HN only plan, and then the OAMC plan. And so what we would like to do is we'll continue to partner with the HR staff and getting our word out there on why it is you're moving to a high deductible and whether or not that's right for you. We do not want anyone to choose the high deductible plan and end up in it for a year, because it is difficult. Because, for instance, as we were talking about the prescription coverage, Mr. McCoy, if an employee only is on that plan, and Aetna is funding the first $500, as they're filling a prescription, it's going to take away from that $500. And they have $1,000 left in deductible that they would have to reach in that year, and then co-payments would pick up. So think about it as it's a $1,500 deductible, but there's 500 of it is being given, and the 1,000 they would be responsible. And then once they hit that, those co-payments that they actually have today on the plans would start to pick up and they would be receiving medications under those co-payments. So, but going back to your question, we do know it's very, very important. We want to be a part of that, a part of those conversations of how it is that we're going to educate. Some of the things that we'd like to do moving forward is not only do we have utilization meetings, kind of looking at the top 5 drivers, but also take those top 5 drivers and figure out what we can do and bring Aetna out into your community. We like to call, what we call it is Ask Aetna. Right now you have a on-site representative who comes twice a month. And so we'd like to utilize that representative along with a wellness coordinator who can come and pair and go to the different areas and have these conversations, really trying to hone in on what we know are the drivers. One of the difficult things in every plan sponsor, and it's not just for the City of Riviera Beach, is case management and getting people to answer the phone when a nurse is calling or when a case manager is calling, trying to help someone get through a life event that's happening to them. What we'd like to do is do an initiative to try to identify good phone numbers for members and then push out a piece of education to members to make them see, you might be getting a phone call from Aetna, but here's why. It's not to say that you owe more on a claim. It's not to tell you that, it's to actually help you through. So we'd like to push some more education on case management. Wellness initiatives, we'd like to partner with the HR, with your HR staff and with the Gehring staff, identify which wellness initiatives we can become a part of. And that's how I think we can lower the loss ratio. Your loss ratio is also going to be lowered because of that high deductible health plan. There's going to be a larger percentage, as you were seeing, I believe it said 90% was the employer paid. In the prior year, 92%. Well, with that high deductible health plan, now you're going to have the actual employer contribute a little bit more. And so you're going to see the premium versus claims, that ratio, come down a little bit.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
So currently, we do have an Ask Aetna rep and a wellness coordinator that's actually currently with us. And you said we're going to actually work on some wellness initiatives to provide additional support.
Yes.
So as of right now, that's the only thing, because currently we've been trending at a higher rate. We've increased about 10% every year for the last 3 years. So the only additional service that Aetna right now has in place is a wellness initiative that they're going to work with our staff on. Go ahead.
So the wellness coordinator, you don't have that today. So that's something that we're going to be adding in. And this wellness coordinator is going to work with all of the utilization data, identifying areas that we need to kind of pinpoint to help. What we know about your utilization is it's driven by high-cost claimants. High-cost claimants, it's already too late. They're already costing a lot of money. We need to focus on preventive. We need to take a look at how many people, what's the membership looking like? Are you getting your annuals? And this is all free. Your annuals, your OBGYN appointments, your mammograms. Are you taking your children for your immunization? We want to focus on preventive. We can do drill downs into that kind of information and see where are you lacking, where do we need to push, how do we pump up this information and education and get it out so that we hit the members, we get the members before they actually start incurring claims. So it's preventive is where we're going to really be focusing on.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Question.
Go ahead.
So were you guys already providing 20,000 towards wellness?
We were, yes, it's 25,000.
And then the 10 additional will just go back towards that? I don't know exactly what that means,
So we
providing it.
provide a wellness fund, and we allow the City of Riviera Beach to determine how they would like to use that. And so we partner with the HR staff and help them purchase the initiatives that they're looking to use that wellness fund. There are some rules and regulations around wellness dollars that we always have to make sure that we comply with, but we really take direction from the HR staff on where to spend those funding.
Okay.
Just as a question, can there be anything to utilize that monies for wellness that effectively, to Councilman McCoy's point, to help offset some of the costs that the employees incur as far as the prescription medication or what have you? Can there be some type of program that's designed to assist in helping provide some type of relief to those that, may find themselves in a situation where they're in the high deductible, but they're in a tier 3 where the prescription medication may be X hundreds of dollars.
I can go back and take a look at the rules and regulations regarding the 25,000, regarding wellness funds in general, and how they might be able to be used to help offset. But one of the things that we're really huge proponents at Aetna are biometric screenings. And we want to do biometric screenings as often as we can to capture as many members as we can. Knowing your numbers is the first step to not only moving the needle on whether or not you want to do something to get yourself a little bit more healthy. Those $25,000 in wellness funds can absolutely be used towards having biometric screening events. We would partner and bring those events out to your membership and, have them wherever it is that we need to have them. But that is absolutely something that, in the past, you have used your dollars towards that, but you can certainly ramp that up.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
How much, did you say 25,000? Because I thought we were at 30. Did you just take 5,000 back?
Yes.
You said 25,000, Gabby.
Oh, sorry, 35.
So is it 35?
Oh,
So we got an
awesome.
extra 5. Let's lock
Listen,
it in before they change.
Lock it in.
You just locked in 10 more. I apologize. I'm thinking about the old plan here.
Okay,
35.
is that easy? Well, I thought
No,
you
no,
said 45.
This is just, this is a hot seat. No, we're at 35. I'm sorry.
Is that it, Mr. McCoy?
Did you want to?
Yes, that's it. I just, I gotta really say, it's gonna be members. You have to realize we have some employees that really don't understand insurance. I didn't understand insurance the way I know it until, I became a father. So I really hope that we can really spend some time and make it easy. I know you've allowed our employees, Mr. Manager, the opportunity to do things on the first day of school. I really want to see, because I just don't want to have a situation where we have an employee say they didn't realize what they'd gotten themselves into with this plan. Obviously it's going to be a little more costly on the front end if they do the buy-up, but I want to make sure that they understand. And I mean, we do a good job. If we have an open enrollment for 2 weeks, that essentially means that we need to have our HR staff trying to at least make at least 1 week. It's kind of tough to say a whole 2 weeks, but at least 1 week, and just making sure that they understand and some sort of, making themselves available, because once they're in, they're in.
Yeah.
So.
Is
Madam-
it possible for you all to do like a video, like a webinar or something, with maybe like the frequently asked questions, or, just in case people are not, I just don't know how you're going to get through 500 people in 2 weeks, but just to have something available that people can view, but if they need to see you as well, that would be an option for you to do.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. Actually, what we're going to do is the first 3 days, we're just doing informational sessions. On that Friday, following the city manager's discretion, he told us to go ahead and we're going to allow that the dependents come out, the decision makers of the family. That Friday, we're going to spend some time with them, and then we're going to have a 2-week open enrollment.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I
And
think
we will
when
be
you do
videoing.
that video, if you do a video, it's really important for you to provide people with examples, so if this is you, here are 5 different employees, they're all going to have a different kind of a situation. One of them probably looks like your situation. Take a look at this, and this is how, so that people can really understand from my perspective as an employee, what is it going to look like for me? To help them understand that, I think that's really important.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
the only concern with that video is the liability that we would incur with kind of making a recommendation on a specific plan. So it's just would be giving basic information. So giving basic information in regards to scenarios that they may have, because since we're not consultants or we're not insurance companies, is Aetna available to offer any additional services during our open enrollment period to provide with this transition, being that we have such a large base and we're changing our entire plan, if they'd be able to offer some additional resources from experienced
Yep,
advisors?
absolutely. Absolutely. We will commit to being a part of that open enrollment education piece before, during, and after. So yes, we can commit.
Because our biggest concern right now is our employees. With this major change for them, we want to make this transition as easy as possible for them. So giving them the insight and giving them support from both parties, our HR, our leadership, and then also the insurance carrier that they've been comfortable with, to see actually the changes and what's their best recommendation. Because hearing it from you guys will actually, take a little bit of strain and stress off of our staff and be able to educate them and get through 500 employees in 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
All right. Mr. McCoy, you look like you have a question.
Yes, I do. It's just an operational question for Mr. Goop. I just don't understand, and I don't know. Like, how do you do an open enrollment for this many employees? Is this something you do online, or is it
No, well, before.
In most cases, what you would do is you would have, on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you would have departments scheduled to come in. You would provide the general information and what's going on. And then during that open enrollment period, they would be provided the forms, or in some cases, you would have folks in the room. You'd set up an opportunity to say, on these days, bring in your forms, and you would sit down with a representative and you would make your selection, those types of things. So logistically, we're going to have to work out how we move forward with that to provide employees enough time to make an informed decision. We don't want anyone rushing the decision, so we want to make sure that we have the informational and the educational sessions early, but it also allows for that conversation to be in an intimate setting with your spouse or your the decision maker in the home to make what you believe to be the best decision. So we're also going to do that. And the other side of it is we're going to encourage employees, if you don't understand and you went through the presentation, come back to another presentation. If you want to hear it again for clarity's sake, we're not going to create any issue where an employee in Public Works can't come back when the police department or the fire department is hearing the presentation either. So we're going to encourage that opportunity. If you want to get another, in essence, bite of the apple to get the information, or you have additional questions, certainly do that. And we can video record the actual sessions, because there's going to be good questions that are going to be asked during those sessions that employees may want to be informed of, and we can create a link or what have you that they can see it on YouTube or what have, for the purposes of educating themselves on the presentation. So we can do all that to make the process as smooth as possible.
All right, any other questions, comments?
just make sure whoever made that motion encompasses the 35,000.
40?
Hurry up before they leave.
All right.
What?
Did I make it?
I don't know.
Who made the motion?
Pro Tem Botel made the motion. Councilperson McCoy seconded.
Okay, you don't have to. Roll call, we ready?
All right, are we ready? All right, Madam Clerk.
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier? Yes. Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
All right, discussion, wait, this is old, right?
The other presentation is an update at the request of Councilwoman Lanier concerning the insurance overpayments that occurred some time ago. Staff is prepared to provide an update concerning that particular matter.
All right.
All right. If I can have a representative from the HR department, I believe Ms. Marie Sullen will be making the presentation that was requested of the board.
All right.
Good evening, Council.
Good
Marie
evening.
Sullen, Risk Manager. With reference to the insurance overpayment and recoveries, initially in August of 2017, when we initially started the audit with the Finance Department, 2 audits were conducted, one by the Human Resources Benefit Administrator and one by the Finance Department. And upon reviewing all the documents and data information that we were able to retrieve, alongside with providing information to Aetna, we received several credits. during which time, in our backup, we've provided a copy of the summary of the credits that we received from Aetna and also recoveries that we did receive based upon emails or information that we had in our system. From September to March of 2018, we received a total credit of $398,543.59. From August of 2018, we received an additional credit of $16,063.92. The total recovery to date is $414,607.51. To date, that is the total recovery that we've received, both in credit and recoveries. And since that time, staff has implemented several measures basically to assure that our process and procedures are as close as to best result of 99.99% results with respect to processing termination timely and making sure that any terminees are off the plan. From that time, we implemented a new policy and procedure, which was forwarded to our prior manager, Ms. Hoskins at the time, and also the finance director and our internal auditor. The information was sent, vetted, and reviewed, and also a copy was sent to the Inspector General's office for review. We've implemented that process. Within that process, we have two-step, where once we receive the bill is received by two different levels of staff, and the third level is myself. Every month also, as a second step, we audit every single bill prior to sending it to finance. And any changes that occur, any termination based upon the report that's on our HRS system, we provide that information within the bill itself prior to forwarding it to the finance department for the final payment and process. In addition to that, we actually, as part of the renewal process that we did with our new broker, we've asked for a new benefit system that would capture any invalidation or any issues with respect to billing in order to rectify the bills on a monthly basis. The Bentex system, which I believe Christian showed you earlier a few minutes ago, that system basically would use as a cost reference from what's in our payroll system under the Tyler Munis, which will be implemented as of, I think, October the 1st. Finance is going to Tyler Munis, where we're able to match what's on Tyler, what's on Bentech, to assure accuracy of the benefits. So whatever's being paid under payroll, that's what would be paid accordingly. Does anyone have any question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I have questions about the 414,607. How was that recouped, and who was it recouped from?
The 414 was recouped from Aetna. It's a combination of credit that was given by Aetna and a combination of data information that we were able to recoup to forward to them to show them that we had already sent a termination for these particular employees or former employees or retirees.
So then the next question would be the almost 600,000. How are you going to recoup that?
At this point in time, I do not have any additional information because the data we had from our prior benefit technician, I'm unable to retrieve that information, and I'm still working with the IT department to recoup additional information. So, but as of today, I do not have any additional information to provide to Aetna, because you have to provide the information either that was uploaded to them or an email or whatever information, however the termination was done at that time.
Follow up, Madam Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
So do you have any, you have to know who the $600,000, who was being paid, whose insurance was being paid by this? I'm asking a question.
I'm trying to understand your question specifically.
I'm saying the $600,000 that was not recouped, that means that someone's insurance was being paid. So you know that You know the individuals who the insurance was being paid. Have you made any attempt to recoup it from them?
We have not made an attempt to recoup from them directly.
Will you?
I don't know under the law if I am able to. That's something that we would have to look into with legal. I don't know if we're able to pursue under the law.
So if a person was getting their insurance paid for 3 years and they had been terminated 3 years prior, that's just money we just lost?
It's a possibility, yes. I don't know what the specific law with respect to recuperation of those type of claims, if they already had claims, if they were paid.
No,
Legally speaking.
I understand that Aetna can't do anything because you said that this person was a current employee. That's why they paid it. I'm saying that you know now that the people were not current employees, that they had been terminated 2-3 years prior. So you can't go back to that. The people knew they were terminated.
They are aware that they were terminated, but I don't know if the law will permit us to pursue it this.
I think that you should find out if you can.
We are looking into that. Previously, our prior city attorney was looking into the matter. I believe Mr. DeGraffenreich and Ms. Lina Busby were looking into the matter. At this point in time, all the information that was sent to them, they do not have it at this point anymore. It's something that we have to retrieve from IT for them to continue pursuing this. And they would be able, well, I don't know if they'll be able to give us a feedback as to if we can or cannot under the law.
I'm not finished.
Hold on. Go ahead.
I just have heartburn that almost $600,000 from the city of Riviera Beach cannot be recouped in any type of way. You claim you don't know who it was paid to or why you paid for 3 years of people's insurance. That's a lot of money. That's over $500,000 in money that the city had to fork over for people who no longer worked here. And to say that, nobody is held responsible for that. Mr. Evans, I got heartburn with the fact that no one has been held responsible for this.
I was held responsible for it, and I took responsibility. This was under my watch. I was held responsible for it, and I also served a time for that, and since then, I have implemented new processes and procedures. I was held responsible.
Served time?
Yes, ma'am. I was suspended by the prior mayor for this particular issue, yes. I do consider that serving time.
No, that's not
But
serving
no,
time.
that's not
That's
serving
We
time.
don't want that.
I don't mean literally jail time or anything, but
Yeah, that's what I thought you meant.
no. Suspension time.
All right.
So,
Hold on. Are you finished, Ms.?
I just think that we need to, just to have this, just to go, just be brushed under the rug because that's just $600,000 we just lost. It's just hard to take that in. So that's just my position on it.
Well, let me say this, since I was here, and I know that we know who the people were who were being paid for. Well, I know you know.
Yes, we are aware who, however, and I'm going to say this very loudly, and I've had a discussion, and I've informed the city attorney.
I'm not talking about that part, so
Okay.
we're not going there right now. But what I am going to say is and we did get the email saying that some of those people did file claims, okay, right?
Correct.
Okay, if some of those people filed claims, I would assume they knew they should not have had insurance. Those people who have filed claims, we need to know, they need to be contacted. Whoever filed those claims, find out who filed claims, how much it was. We need to be able to recoup some of this money back some kind of way from those people. They knowingly knew they shouldn't have had insurance. They had to have known that, unless they were promised to keep the insurance. Whatever may have been arranged with them, I don't see someone using insurance knowing that they no longer work at the place and they continue to use it. And if they knowingly did that, then we need to see how we can go take legal action. I think that's what we need to look at. And then what information is it that you're saying that DeGraffenreich and Lina had that they no longer have because of the IT?
Well, I provided to them the list of the former employees.
Okay,
that
you still
utilized the
have
plan.
that. Mhm.
Okay. I provided that to them, and
Okay.
along who utilized it and who did not utilize it.
So you don't have you don't have that information? anymore?
As of today, I was able to forward that, the same information that I had already forwarded to Ms. Busby and Mr. DeGraff, again to Ms. Busby and Ms., not the names, though, because I was informed not to email the names
Right,
with the
right.
information in combination
Right.
because it's a HIPAA violation. So, but I do have that information.
So, Ms. Nguyen can look into how we can legally go after them or recoup the money or something. We have some sort of recourse.
Yes, we'll look into that. Those that we paid for, that the city paid for, that did not utilize it, that's...
Right, I would imagine that's our fault. We have to probably eat that, I'm assuming, because it was our fault. Aetna's not going to give it back to us. If they did not use it, then I would assume they didn't know they had it. But those that filed the claim for sure, I'm certain there's something we can do about that.
Yeah, we'll look into it.
Who else?
I did, that was exactly my question. There has to be a way. If you utilize your insurance knowing full well that you no longer work for the employer who gave you that insurance, you're culpable. I mean, we should be able to recoup that money, and I'm glad to know that we can look into that and see if there's anything that can be done, because that's just not right. And especially if any promises were made to people who no longer worked here by anybody, we need to investigate that.
Well, no promises were made by
By you.
myself or
I
my
know.
office, as far as I am.
Madam
For me,
Chair?
definitely no promises were made to anyone.
Madam Chair?
I mean, and I didn't mean to imply that you did.
Oh,
so.
no, it was not taken as such.
Well, I did want to make sure that that was put on record, because if that did happen, we need to investigate that. I'm not saying you or who, but if that is why those people were left on there, if there's a reason why they were left on, because the funny thing about that is that some people, when Mr. Evans left, his name wasn't on that list. And so it appeared to be selective, and I'm just being honest, without saying who those people are. But it just makes you wonder, why were some left on there and some were not? So I would like to know, how did some people get left on there and some didn't?
And I believe I did explain this, but I will go ahead and do so, no problem. When we are terminating employees, HR does not do the final termination. We run a report through our HRS system, which is with American Data Group, ADG, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. We run the report on a monthly basis, and we forward it to Aetna. And if we have a system issue or whatever the case may be, we may fax it or email it, however that we're able to do so. If an employee is not terminated, but they are gone, but left inactive on the system because payroll has not paid a final paycheck, there's some discrepancy or dispute, a legal issue, they are left on the system as inactive. So when the report is ran, the report is not picking up anyone that's listed as inactive. And we were unaware of that at the time, during those particular time. It was not until the 2017-2018 years that we found out that employees were left as inactive when they should have been terminated. Then when the report is ran to send to Aetna, that they would come up on the report as terminated. If they're shown as inactive, the report, that system that we currently have under American Data Group, does not pick up anyone. If you run a termination report, will not pick up anyone that's shown as inactive. And that is the reason why there are some people who were just left as that.
I'm going to beg to differ on that, because I know
And
for
I
a
can
fact
actually
there are
demo
some, let
a
me finish,
report
please.
system to you if you would
There are
like.
some on there that fall in those categories, and there are some that do not fall in that category. So I still think there's something going on with that list. And that's just me. This has been going on since June 2018, and it still doesn't make sense.
Yes,
It
Madam
doesn't.
Chair.
Yes. go
I'd
ahead.
like to have Mr. Evans and this department at our October meeting to bring back the information about how this can be rectified. And I agree with the chair in terms of when Mr. Evans was fired, in 2 weeks he didn't have any insurance. So you mean to tell me for 3 years people were getting insurance and you just had no idea? Those are the kind of things that the council and the public needs to know. So in October, please, could you bring back that information regarding following this with legal action?
Madam Chair, if I may, obviously this has been a topic of discussion for this council for some time now, and so we will bring that information back, but I think the council also needs to consider launching an independent inquiry into this to look in more specificities, to remove staff from the situation and have a report provided to the council exclusively with the assistance of staff to provide the documentation and the information necessary. But I think that's probably the only way that the board would feel comfortable with the end product. We can go through a process to work with Ms. Nguyen to obtain counsel for the purposes of looking at all that, and they can work exclusively with Ms. Nguyen and then report to the board what the findings are, not administration, not HR, but work through the attorney's office. I think that's the cleanest way, and that provides for the accountability and the transparency I think the board's looking for on this item.
All right, so someone need to make a motion for that?
Madam
So
Chair,
moved.
Oh, go ahead.
just two quick questions. The process when terminating an employee, do they normally outline the cancellation of benefits in the termination letter?
There is no actual termination letter issued unless it's an executive level or if the person is actually being terminated versus if they're retiring or if the person resigned. If the person resigned, there is no letter issue. There is a checklist that's issued at the end when an employee turn in their keys, their phone, or their uniform and so on. And then if that's turned in from the department to us, then from there we can actually issue a letter. But what we go by is actually running the report on our HRS system to issue the information to Aetna or whoever the carrier is.
Okay, well then, even with that, the system is still kind of flawed, because if the employee was not notified of benefits being canceled or terminated, now it's going to be an argument on legal's behalf that is going to be tougher for Ms. Nguyen to win, because if they were not informed that they were no longer allowed to keep benefits, it's going to be our sake of saying that they were advised that they could keep their benefits for 3 years after, versus them leaving the department and not having any documentation to say that they no longer could keep their benefits. So I'm not sure what legal would have to do with that, but that's just one concern. We're possibly saying moving forward, since we've already instructed that we're going to look into this, moving forward, termination letters and resignation letters and an outline of what happens next, maybe something that we can implement for all employees that leave our department. And then
Do we have to
follow-up.
do a motion for this time, or no?
No, Madam
We're
Chair.
good, okay.
And then a follow-up, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
The money that we recoup from Aetna, I was seeing if Mr. Sherman could let us know, where did that money go? Where did we put that?
You know, I got, your mother, I'm about to say something like that to my,
It's credits, it wasn't money.
Well,
It's credits.
the overpayments would have come out of the general fund, so when we received credits going forward, those funds would have been returned back to the general fund.
I'm sorry, the overpayment came from the general fund?
Correct.
Okay, so then we just received a credit, and that
And it
credit,
went
so it was
back.
just reduced for the general fund.
Correct.
So with all of our insurance and everything is paid out, comes out of our general fund.
Well, again, it comes out of all of the funds, I
Mhm.
mean, utility and everything, but when we run a payroll, we gather those numbers from all the other funds, it goes into the general fund, and then we pay everything out of the general fund. So when the money comes back, it would have just gone into the general fund.
Okay.
All right, anyone else?
I just wanted to be clear on our direction, and to speak to Councilman Lawson. I don't know a job that when you get fired, you keep your insurance for 3 years. I don't think you have to be given a letter to let someone know that when somebody fires you, that's it. So, but that being said, I think that we just need to move forward and figure out how we're going to recoup some of our $600,000. And Mr. Evans, could you repeat how we want to proceed with this in terms of an outside counsel?
It would be staff's recommendation that the board authorize the city manager and city attorney to enter into an agreement with an outside firm to look into this particular matter and report their findings exclusively to the board, working through the city attorney, that they are to investigate and make the appropriate inquiries to look at what legal recourses that we do have, how the process was created, what are the steps that are in place, making sure that we pressure test those steps to make sure that it can never happen again, as well as the validity of the names that are contained on the list, what is protected by HIPAA, what is not protected by HIPAA, and if information can be redacted so the list can effectively be released. Those things, and then providing an opportunity for them to present their findings to the board for an update, that they are independent and work with the city attorney, and their findings are to be only presented to the attorney for review purposes, and then ultimately come to the board as a final report on the issue and any recommendations to move forward.
And I make a motion that we ask staff to do that.
Can I ask a few questions before you make a motion?
You want to take a minute?
I'll take a minute, yeah.
You want to let me get in, please? You don't mind? Okay, I will. So, I'm going to be honest, I probably have a different position than what you're asking for, because there's a few things that I'm reminded of. So, I was looking at this list of 101 employees. So, immediately, I see 34 that, through no fault of their own, wouldn't even be on this list. It says 10 active CRA employees, 20 were retirees. Clearly, it's not a retiree's fault, right? Because they were already on retiree coverage. And it's my understanding, when you're on retiree coverage, that you paid your full amount of the insurance premium. So I don't even know if that's a question. 4 were duplicates, meaning an employee was duplicated 4 different times. So that leaves 67 that were actually terminated. And what we don't know from that is, I think I heard Ms. Marie Sullen indicate, terminated could possibly mean they retired or they resigned, or they, in some cases, may have even been fired or terminated. But I think what's going to ultimately be, and I don't know if this is an avenue that we want to go as a board, we're going to try to go after $600,000 and find out if we can recoup it. But the first thing that you have to ask yourself from the employee's perspective, even if they made a claim, was it willful and intentional? You can go to a provider and they still have your insurance from prior, from before. And if you can't establish that the employee actually agreed to pay, or the employee agreed to pay that insurance coverage, I don't know that we can go back and actually collect on it. There are some general principles and fundamentals of criminal law and also civil law that we're about to spend money to go after something that I think, obviously we know that this was a situation that's unfortunate for the city, but I don't think that we'll be able to go after money for something that we made a mistake on and an employee just benefit off of it. Now, in many cases, there are going to be some scenarios where you get down into the nitty-gritty that we're going to send somebody out and pay them to only find out, well, this was a billing error by the hospital's part. And we're talking about stuff going by 2 and 3 years ago. From a billing standpoint, an insurance company a medical provider is going to bill whoever they can bill. Irrespective if that employee know that insurance was still active on them. Are we going to spend that kind of money to find out something which we already know? The real issue is not the employees who were terminated. The issue was it was an internal control error that happened on our side. And I think to spend money going after something that I know that no court is going to rule in our favor to put any kind of opportunity to recoup on is just, we're wasting more time, Mr. Evans. And I think you need to be clear, Ms. Wynn, perhaps you need to give some advice, but there's no court that's going to enforce anything like a recovery for people who didn't even agree to pay for it. Now, if it was our fault, I think we owned that. And to spend more time on it, I just don't see that we're going to have any court. So I would love to hear what the attorney has to say before we even, have staff to go back and try to put something together.
Madam Chair, if I may, one of the things that I can tell you from conversations that there's not, since I've been here, there's not a week that goes by that I do not get a public records request for the release of that list. And the other side of it is, I don't think it ever provides clarity and closure if there is not some type of inquiry that is done. Now, whether some people voluntarily come to the table and say, hey, I'm going to pay back because I received, that's completely on them. And, you know, your council may say that you will not be able to receive anything, but we're just trying to, how do we conceivably put this issue to bed and move on? Because we have to meet with 500 employees to tell them that we're changing their health insurance plan, and invariably they look at the situation where they know $1 million went out for folks that weren't on the plan, and so their concern is that we're paying for the issues that occurred previous. So this helps provide clarity and closure to an issue so we can move forward and provide you options as to how the board wishes to proceed. So that was the intent behind it, not necessarily to go and take an aggressive action to collect it, but to provide closure on this issue. And then you as the policymaking board can determine based on legal's guidance whether you take collection actions or you don't take collection actions.
I would like to hear, so, you know,
Pull your microphone up.
I can see that point, but I certainly want to hear if this is something like, because like even your scope, I think, and I remember when this issue came up last year regarding the whole, and this isn't, so members, let's back up. So there has been a report that was done on this. And if I can remember correctly, the report was done while Karen Hoskins was the city manager. And furthermore, this happened all around when the suspension occurred for the staff member. And it was as a result of the report is why staff took action. So I would hope that that's still available, right?
What is that?
The report that you guys had when you substantiated the mayor's suspension.
I mean, that didn't speak to getting this additional fund, getting the other money back.
Okay.
That didn't address that.
So, but I would like to hear from the attorney on the likelihood or even remote possibility of recovering any of that money.
Again, you know, I will never give you guarantees on litigation. However, to Mr. Evans' point, my thought about the motion was that you would be looking to have an audit that would put closure to this matter. We would look at collections for possibly those 60 former employees. You know, my thought initially was that it's generally common knowledge that when you no longer work somewhere, you don't have insurance. When you go to a doctor, the first question they ask you is, has anything changed?
Right.
By saying nothing has changed and utilizing that insurance, that goes toward intent. Now, how many, again, out of those 60, maybe only 10 people use the insurance. That will be up to you when we come back with the audit, should we go that route, as to whether or not you would then like to proceed against those 10, 20, 40, 60 people for collections.
Okay, so that's going to be interesting, right? Because that now presents a HIPAA thing that was previously prevented before from us disclosing it. Now, who's going to really say you guys made the mistake, my insurance company got billed? Here, let me give you the $10,000, $15,000 that benefited. So do we now take the action that we file a perhaps civil lawsuit against people's information we vowed to protect under our, I mean, so, and again, that goes back to the question of likelihood of us possibly collect, or even the remote possibility of us collecting anything.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
do we have a motion on the table on the
She
floor?
pulled it back,
But respectfully,
Madam
board,
Chair, I'm not finished.
yes.
I just wanted to say that, first of all, we were having this conversation because there is $600,000 that was spent from the city's coffers, and we still have not gotten answers about how this all went down. Now, as Mr. Evans stated, if we move forward with an outside investigation of this, I'm sure that the board and the public will feel much more comfortable about over $500,000 not being accounted for.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I want to restate my motion because I agree. Even if we don't recoup a dime, we have to investigate thoroughly what happened. The investigation has to take place by an outside agency, an outside entity, to put this to rest, because, we can't continue to have this suspicion out there that somebody did something crooked, that shenanigans went on. So I restate my motion. I would like to have the staff move forward in this manner that Mr. Evans described earlier.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Okay, we'll just go ahead with the vote if no one else has any comments.
I just want to ask the question, Madam Chair. Do you have the report from when you guys substantiated the mayor's suspension last year in 2018?
I don't recall, was there an actual report done?
There wasn't.
So surely there must have been something if you would substantiate
No,
the
the
mayor.
mayor did a presentation. He did a presentation during the meeting.
Right.
He did a presentation during the meeting, and then you did a follow-up presentation?
No.
Or you didn't?
He did a presentation at the meeting and saying that this is the reason why he was suspending her.
Right.
There was nothing about what happened to the money. There was nothing about what they were going to recoup. It was just the fact that he wanted to substantiate why he was suspending her. That was it.
Right. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson,
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier,
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy,
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel.
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
All right, public comment. Public comment should be restricted to issues, matters, or topics pertinent to the city of Riviera Beach. Please be reminded that the city council has adopted rules of decorum governing public conduct during official meetings, which has been posted at the entrance of the council chambers. In an effort to preserve order, if any of the rules are not adhered to, the council chair may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the podium from the meeting and/or building if necessary. Please govern yourselves accordingly.
Madam Chair, the acceptance of public comment cards at this time is now closed. Doretta Polk, Mary Bram.
Those are the only two?
Good evening, council.
Good evening. The timer still isn't working? Okay, so we'll just have to watch out for Miss Claudine. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Doretta Polk, and I came to about the subject of this insurance matter, and I think we do need transparency. Ms. Councilman Lanier, we need it, and we need an independent counsel coming in along with the city manager and the city attorney. So it is to put this arrest. Just lay it to bed. So another thing, there was also stated that there was someone who was deceased, and there's someone used their insurance card also, a family member of what have you. We need to totally look into all of these avenues. And I wanted to talk about the last meeting, council meeting that we had concerning a statement that you made, Mr. McCoy, concerning Mrs. Botel brought up that about the stipend and also about the legal assistance. And you turned to her and stated that you don't want to be nickeled and dimed, but yet here it is a big $600,000 that has taken out of the taxpayers, the citizens' money, but you want to just throw it under the rug. No, but you don't want to, your stipend, and if she wants to give her stipend up, she can dibble it up. That's wrong. It's not actually what you said, it's the manner that you say things. And it's wrong. It's unprofessional, and it was very rude. Not only myself heard it, other people also heard it, citizens heard it. It was a big conversation concerning it. And they felt that, okay, you want to keep your stipends, but what they thought that you should have been saying, yes, I want to use at least half of my stipends on my district, those deplorable roads those people are living in. That's their comment. And I asked her, please come out and share this, because he needs to hear this. And we need, yes, I think this is a very good body that we have, the best that we have had. But when we have the complaints of Mr. McCoy that you went to this meeting, that meeting. This is what you signed up for. This is what you went to the city clerk, and then she took it to the supervisory elections because you wanted to have this position. This comes with it. This absolutely young man comes with it. So I implore you to just, please, the antics that you're doing is wrong. And another thing, how you spoke one time to Mr. Evans, no, Mr. Evans, we will not have this such and such and such thing. Look at the archives. I'm sure Mr. Walter Stevens has it. It's wrong. And we're going to have to be respectful. Thank you very much.
Mary Brown.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Mary Bram, once again, Riviera Beach. I totally agree. Apparently, my question was answered about the employees and when they leave here. Mr. Evans was fired, was dismissed that night. That next day, everything was wiped out about Mr. Evans. What is good for one should be good for all. Miss Marie Sullivan, she paid the consequences for her action. She was suspended. Now what about the rest? I totally agree that we should have an outside independent when these things of this nature occur in this city here, because there's too much of hand washing here. If we get somebody that will come in that have no ties with us and do their job, then we as the general public, we can say that you are doing your job. But when you do not do these things here, that lets us know that you want to push these things underneath the mat, and that can't be that. I would not have this board here sit and want to deal in corruption. You would not do that. We did not work hard and long for any of you all. One thing about Ms. Bram, I don't worry about your opponent. I worry about making you win or either making you lose. So, Mr. Evans, with this budget thing, I sat in this budget here, and I was told, I wasn't amazed by it, because I know his skill set and his professionalism. If we are to move this city forward here, I expect for this board here to have the meetings of the minds, and let's move this city forward here. You do not need 80 positions filled in this city here. Utilize that money in some other worthy causes here. You always institute the people that you need that will move your organization forward. Those 80 positions, a lot of them do not need to be filled. And we as the general public, we have saw this over and over again. Wasteful spending. Wasteful spending. It's time for us to either get on board or either we can ship out of here. Because we will not stay in the same rut that we have been in years after year after year. I do consider you all to be a good board here. And I don't want you to get dialogue and little pettiness. You have a city manager, and you have a city attorney, and you have assistant city manager. And most of all, you have residents like Ms. Bram here. And we're going to stay on watch for you. And we want you to do right. So, Drogic, if you need to smile a little bit, drink some water, and chill out like Ms. Bram. What with Mr. Evans here? You as a board here, we must forget about all of that past stuff.
Thank you,
and move
Ms. Bram.
forward. Thank you. Time to go home here, too.
I agree with you. All right. Discussion by city manager?
Just real briefly, Madam Chair, we received some information from a third-party independent research group that looks at city pensions, and I'm happy to report that the city's pension plan, as it relates to funding, is in the top 3% of pension plans nationwide for municipalities over 30,000. The city of Riviera Beach and the city of Clearwater Beach are the only communities that made that top 3%, and the agency that is number one in the country is Bristol, Connecticut. So kudos to the tough decisions that previous boards had to make with respect to making the making the modifications to the pension plan, but it has paid dividends, and you are in the top 3% of pension plans well-funded nationwide. So I will be sending that out to the board, and then we will work with Mr. Stevens to go ahead and put out a press release as well. That concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Wonderful. We'll start with City Council comments, starting with Dr. Votel.
I have a report about the Economic Development Committee of the Palm Beach North Chamber, but I'll save it for next time.
All right, Mr. McCoy?
Yes, so two things. I brought up to you by email this request from the Housing Authority. Is that something that we can see in September?
We can certainly put that on the agenda for September, yes, sir.
So does that, Madam Chair and Mr. Manager, extend our submittals for when we get the agenda passed? Is it still going to be a week prior?
Yes, I can
For
get
the next meeting, I mean, for the
September, for
Thursday,
the
the 5th.
being that I haven't had the opportunity to discuss it with staff, if the board would incline to allow for us to do it the second meeting in September, so I can get with them to create an agenda and we can have a more in-depth conversation to find out exactly the specifics on the ask.
Okay, and also I want to have a conversation. The calls regarding the utility bills and these meters are constantly going up. And I don't know if we need to figure out, I don't know what the process is, but I want to certainly have a conversation about that. And also the memo we just received from the BTRs, because there are some things that I don't believe is captured in here that really address my concerns. So I'll certainly like to bring that up in a meeting, because I think what we got in here today seems to kind of misclassify what my intentions were when I brought up the fact that we've only had one, I guess we had one person that was able to utilize this process, but the process is very vague in what staff determines. I know we had a guy that had overpaid his BTR to the tune of something like $22,000, right? And I don't even know if it's been resolved to this point, but I certainly want to have a conversation.
If you would like, I can add it on to the agenda for the September 4th meeting or 5th meeting as a staff report to get an update from staff, and that could be an opportunity to.
But, Mr. Evans, so I don't want it on the meeting, because here's the thing. We get dropped with stuff on us, right? And you ask us the question, do we have any questions? Well, if I'm looking at it right here and I've only had 20 minutes to have the conversation, I mean, obviously, this was sent on the 16th, Mr. Evans, so I don't want to be faced with stuff and I get it at the last minute and we're expected to vote on it, deliberate on it, even have a discussion about it.
Yeah, no, that was only provided to me today, and as soon as I got it today, I made copies of it and presented it to the board. So, the board can have an opportunity to spend some time with the document, and then we can discuss it at a later date if.
Well, it was presented to us here at the meeting, so I thought maybe this was something that was going to be, I guess, addressed tonight, but, given the hour, I don't think we need to probably discuss it any further, but I do have some concerns about how, what the response here is.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Lanier?
Just two things. I just wanted to make sure that, certainly by our October meeting, that you bring back the information about outside counsel for the investigation. And second of all, I know that we have back-to-back meetings, but I certainly would like to have to workshop the issue of the education piece for the council.
Okay.
You need until October to figure out who you're going to go forward with?
No, we can do that.
Well, I'm thinking about October, they should be
And
starting.
we'll do a staff
Thank you.
report.
Yeah.
It won't be an item, it'll be a staff report.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Lawson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a conversation with Mr. Scott Evans about Marina Phase 2, and from my understanding that he's waiting on, I guess, the city to give him some direction so that we can move forward, because it was supposed to be an agenda item. So, Mr. Evans, if you could connect with Mr. Scott Evans, just to see where we stand. I know it's budget season for both of us, but we're just anxiously want to get moving forward with that. So I assumed it would be on the agenda for this week, but he took it off based on some recommendations.
Yes, Councilman, Mr. Evans did send me an email, I believe, here we go, today, concerning the Marina Management Agreement. So I have that item to review and then provide some comments back to him, and then we'll be able to move forward accordingly.
And then timeframe-wise, when we'll actually have a discussion in reference to the Peanut Island discussion? I know we had a 60-day deadline, I believe.
That is correct, and from the latest conversation that I've had is that I'm going to be meeting with the county administrator concerning Peanut Island and they're going to lend some perspective, and then I'm going to be working on a proposed workshop schedule on some of the items the boards has said that they'd like to discuss, and then propose some dates and times when we can discuss some of those issues in more specificity, because we do need some time with the board on a number of issues where we need to dedicate 1 hour or 2 hours to one or two issues. So I'm going to be working through that and then providing some dates and times, and hopefully we can get some things solidified on that.
That's it, Madam Chair.
All right. Smash my hand. I do not have any comments. I actually packed up on myself tonight. So with that being said, we stand adjourned.